what's going on with my video. It's going to be a little bit bouncy, but you guys are going to learn a lot from this. I think there might be camera shaking apps to adjust this, but I don't know any of that. I'm going to Goodwill right now to find a PS4 controller because I just absolutely love playing PlayStation 2 games. If you like playing PlayStation 2 games too, tell me your favorite one in the comments right now. But today's video is going to be going from novice to a professional mechanic. A little bit of backstory: I started becoming a mechanic when I was 18 years old, went to college, and got my first job at Advanced Auto Parts. Eventually, over time, I kept on working at dealerships as rather if it was a parts person, mostly parts person, but being a mechanic, an oil change person for Monroe too. And I gained this experience over time by doing a lot of separate jobs. Most of my knowledge really comes from school, but I didn't graduate, so that should give you a little bit of motivation too. But I didn't learn anything about engine removal, transmission removal. I mean, I opened up a transmission and stuff like that, but I never got the knowledge of real experience of being on the spot, you know what I mean? So that's a little bit of backstory from me. Now let's get straight into the video. I've had jobs in the automotive field for maybe about since I was 18, like I'm saying, obviously, but I've probably had 7 separate jobs, and I can name them on the tip of my fingers. My first job was at Advanced Auto Parts, and there's going to be a little bit of story time. I was a parts person there for 2 years, and I learned a lot while I was there. I learned how to replace a battery, scan check engine lights, and test alternators, change wiper blades. It's your best spot to start in because you're going to learn a lot of the basics in this field by working for parts stores. So if you can get your first job, which is going to be my first point, is get your first job at a parts store. It doesn't matter what it is, O'Reilly's, Advanced Auto, and AutoZone. But what I am going to tell you right now, if you're going to stay in one of those, you cannot work for the rest of them. So if I get my first job at Advanced Auto Parts, they don't tell you about this. You can't work for AutoZone. If you work for AutoZone, you can't work for O'Reilly's or Advanced Auto Parts. The second bonus trick that I'm going to teach you about working at parts stores is different stores have different discounts for employees. When I was working at Advanced Auto Parts, I was working for, I think it was 10% off all parts that I buy myself. Some others, it might be 15%, 20%. So that's something for sure to keep in mind when you're doing this stuff. The third trick about it too is you can share those discounts with friends and family, you know. And the last point I'm going to tell you is most parts stores, if you look in through your account when you sign up for them, you get learning content. I learned the insides of the alternator, the stator. I learned about the copper windings in it. I learned about water pumps and impellers in the water pumps, coolant types. All this information is available for you for free. So take advantage of this information, print it out. That's something that I did. Print it out, put it in a binder so you memorize it and you know how each component works. And that's what I was doing for the past 3 years I was at Advanced Auto Parts, is I was learning a lot, and I jammed a lot of my time learning and reading. After you do all of this and you're learning and you're proving yourself that you can be reliable in the time and stuff like that, you're basically, all you're doing is just it's a quotation of licking the eye of the manager. That's all you're doing, kissing ass, you know. And you're going to be doing this a lot, you know. If they need you to come in, you're going to come in and do that shift that you really, really don't want to do. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to progress and become something greater than just a parts person. And that's what I was doing. I was working weekends. I was working holidays where we were allowed to work, you know. Hey, somebody called out, can you come in? I was always coming in. And that's what made me different to everybody else, is I was doing these things. Most people can't take a Sunday off or take a Saturday off. They want their weekends off so that they can go home and rest. But not me. I wasn't doing that. And that's how I progressed quickly. So at the time of Advanced Auto Parts, I was doing all this stuff, grinding, putting in the work, learning. And I went to school, obviously, but you don't have to go to school. And this is why I'm going to tell you, you don't have to go to school. There was somebody at my job, he's a certain age, and he went to a technical school in high school. And you can do this too if you're still young. Just go into a technical school and just learn the basics, you know. Technical school is going to give you more hands-on than college, and it's free, you know, or your parents might be paying for it. My number 2 point to this, to avoid college if you're still young enough, is backyard work or attending a technical school. Backyard work can look like your dad wanting you to change the brakes, and you're just using a YouTube video to change brakes. Enough of this repetition back and forth will bring you knowledge. Not just knowledge, but also wisdom too, because now you know you're breaking bolts, you know, you're stripping bolts. There's oil leaks all over the floor. All of this stuff is learning lessons for you, so that when you do this professionally, you don't commit these mistakes. And that's what I was doing while I was working at Advanced Auto Parts. I was pulling out my first transmission on my Mitsubishi Eclipse, and I was doing my first engine swap on the Toyota Celica and watching how these people did these things. All of this turned into experience for later on in life, and I'm so grateful for it, because even though I didn't make a mistake and I went to college and I didn't attend often and I dropped out due to attendance and this and that, flunked my classes, God still gave me the grace to be able to work on cars, because he saw the effort that was within inside of me and my commitments. And that's going to be number 3 for this, is that you can trust the process and believing in God and trusting in him. People forget that God giveth and he taketh away, because that's just who he is. He's mighty, he's powerful, he has the motivation for anything. He has the world on his hands, and people forget about this very, very often. So it makes you think that going through the norm route is normal. I mean, to people's eyes, the worldly eyes, it is normal, but to God, God can do anything. And if you just trust in him like I did, you can get there too. And I get emotional because it's true. I flunked out of college and I messed my life up going to college, and I thought I couldn't do this automotive stuff. But as soon as I got that job at Ford, and now I'm doing oil changes, I'm doing tire rotations, and I'm learning so much, I know that you can do it too. I know you can do it. So that's number 3, is putting your faith in God when things aren't working out. Having faith is super, super important. Let me take a breath. Number 4 is gonna have to be now progress. After you've gotten the knowledge at a parts store or at a junkyard, and you're taking note of all these things, and you're doing the training at home, take note of this stuff. Take note of all this stuff. Write it down. Take photos. Have your resume handy. And make friends with your managers. That's what I tried to do at Advanced Auto Parts. Make friends with my manager so that he could put in the good word for that. And then next thing you know, your first job is going to be Jiffy Lube. Like my job was Monroe. My first actual mechanic job was Monroe Muffler. I messed that up by scratching up a car. I scratched up like a $50,000 truck. I think it was like an F-250. That was my mistake, and they ended up firing me. But I learned how to do brakes professionally. Just adding on to the video, I was doing transmission fluid changes, ball joints, control arms, exhaust work, and I learned how to weld at Monroe Muffler. I learned how to do all these things. Back to the video. So common in Monroe Muffler. And at this point, when you get your job at Monroe, or as a parts person, you have this base knowledge experience. It's going to be very easy for you to know this stuff, you know, especially as a parts person. But I would probably recommend, I like the commission of parts after you've worked for parts counter at Advanced Auto Parts. It would make more sense to work for parts at a dealership. But for my situation, I was working at Monroe, and I had my own tools and stuff like that. And when you're doing the stuff in your backyard, you're going to get your own tools anyways. That's part of the process of this. So when you're doing backyard stuff, you'll collect tools over time like I did, and it'll add up quickly. You know, you have your little Advanced Auto Parts money, and you have your little own side hustle money, and that's good. But you can use this money for tools, obviously, to progress to a Jiffy Lube or a parts person. I progressed obviously to being a person working on Monroe Muffler, and I showed my consistency, my timeliness, taking my time. When you're working at your first mechanic job, take your time, but improve over time. Take your time, but improve your time over time. So oil changes generally take 25 to 30 minutes, at least time, according to Automate, for an example. At least that's what my dealer uses. 30 minutes. Rotations, 45 to 50 minutes. Tires, an hour or so. You know, you want to learn all these things, but you want to take your time with them too. So if you're taking 40 minutes, 50 minutes on your first oil change, take your time. Don't rush it. Just make sure you're doing good quality work over time, and you will become better at it. But eventually, I like to say within the 3-month mark or the 4-month mark, there must be some type of change to your time. So that might mean instead of aiming for 50 minutes of oil changes, do 40 minutes, do 45 minutes, and then show them that improvement. You know, the best feeling ever is when you're working on a car and the customer comes up to you and says, here's a tip, and then your manager sees that. That's a good thing. You want the customers to come back and tell you that you're doing a good job. That's the best thing that's going to be for you. That's going to be the best thing that's going to be in for the company. I stopped the video for some odd reason. All these little steps that are going to be going on, and the improvement that you're going to be seeing through not only your managers, but customers, your coworkers, they're all going to encourage you, hopefully, and they're all going to motivate you to do better. If you don't have coworkers that are motivating you to do better, you don't have coworkers. You just have people that are just coming in and trying to get off their shift. And you don't want that when you're starting as a new mechanic. You do not want that. You want people that are going to tell you, hey, Juan, do you think you can hurry up a bit? Hey, you had a little oil leak over here. Do you think you can clean it up? You want that little input when you're working on cars, especially when it's your first time, like I'm saying. But if you get these compliments from customers, compliments from your manager, good. Just keep on going with that process. Are you going to have days where you're going to be a little bit lazy? Yes, you are going to have those days where you're going to be a little bit lazy. It's common. It happens. But make sure the next day you pick back up and you're striving to do better. Now, my last thing I'm going to say is at this point, now you're improving at your first mechanic job. You're getting the tips. You're getting the compliments. Your coworkers absolutely love the heck out of you because you're just so good at your job and you're making everybody's lives easier. Here's the thing. When you're a mechanic at a shop, if you slack off, it's going to be leaning onto your other coworkers. And what's going to happen? Your other coworkers are going to hate you. The worst thing is when you do a job on a car and there's an oil leak. And now it's stopping you from that 12 o'clock waiter that's coming in. And now your coworker has to take that 12 o'clock waiter so you can fix your mess up from yesterday in that oil leak. It's going to annoy them. They don't want to work on your past mistakes. They don't want to. Will they pick up the slack every little bit? Sure, but there's a tolerance to that. And you almost probably lose your job if it's consistently that you're messing up and they have to pick up your slack. Now, if you're messing up and you pick up your own slack and it's not bothering everybody else, cool. But most of the time at dealerships that are super busy, it's going to mess up with the waiters, and your coworkers are going to hate you. So don't do that. You're going to make your mistakes. Naturally, they're going to happen. But over time, you have to improve and try to perfect it so that you can move up to the bigger steps. Now, with the Monroe Muffler experience, what ended up happening after that in my own personal life, again, this is about my personal life experience, but I'm just giving you the steps onto how to become a professional mechanic. I got fired for scratching truck, like I was mentioning before. So I got leaned off of that job. I got out of the field for a little bit, but I was still consistently trying to do bigger jobs. So at this point, I had done my first, I was doing alternators. I was changing belts. I was changing, what else was I doing? Changing radios, changing speakers, installing subwoofer systems. I was just improving in all these areas so that I can keep on adding to that resume, you know? And as soon as you have all of this, start Start building your resume now. Don't start building your resume when you get advanced auto parts or the parts are junkyard. Do not build your resume when you get to Monroe Muffler. Start building your experience when you start working for these bigger guys. Toyota, Honda, Ford. Make the resume presentable. How do I make this resume presentable? Here's how I did it. And I'm going to end it with this because this video is going to get way too long. Put your skills that you're good at. What are skills? Communication, timeliness, bilingual. If you're bilingual, put bilingual on there. People love bilingual people in the automotive field. I can't tell you how many times at Advanced Auto Parts I got a Spanish person coming up to me and asking me for a certain part, or a coworker, and then they say, Juan, can you translate? It's an absolute bonus when you're a mechanic. So put that you're bilingual if you are. If not, learn the Spanish language while you're doing all this stuff. But I don't recommend that, but you can if you want to. Put that you're bilingual, timely, smart, and knowledgeable. You can put your knowledge. I know how to do brakes. I know how to do tires. I know how to do oil changes. All this you're going to put in your resume. Put a little box of your own personal interests. So for me, it might be I like anime, or I like watching movies during the weekend. But don't make it too long. Just make it just enough, a couple sentences, so that they can know who you are. I'm a goofy guy, you know. I take my job very seriously. I'm hardworking, you know. All this can go into a little bit of your information. Then you can put your professional description. And your professional description is going to be, I've loved working on cars since I was 18 because it was passed down through my father that knew so much about cars working at junkyards. So he taught me, you know, that's going to be your professional description. Your name, a photo of yourself is going to work wonders. They want to know who they're going to be talking to, or you might leave it as a mystery. I don't know, but I like uploading photos of myself so they know who they're looking for. And then your experience, your phone number, very, very common. They're going to do that. Email, just in case if they want to send you a thank you letter for applying the position, or like I was mentioning on my last video on my shorts, is an appreciation letter. So that's going to be on my shorts. So definitely go check that out. Appreciation letter. They're going to want to see your email so that they're not, oh, this person sends this appreciation letter. We're going to send them an email that says, we're thankful for you for this position, and we hope to see you for your first day of work and stuff like that. Email, sorry. My mind's flying all over the place. Email is very common for managers in the automotive field for them to reach out to. I've always gotten emails through all of my managers when I got hired for the job, or calls, but mostly it will start with phone call, can you come in? Interview, wait a couple days, phone call, you got the job. Send you an email for employment start packets and stuff like that. Drug screenings, you know, emails are super, super important. But phone numbers are equally as important too. You can put awards, you know, did you win any awards in high school? It shows that you are dedicated to the stuff that you do. And I think that's going to be it. That's how I got from bottom of the line, no knowledge, to being a professional mechanic today for Ford. I've been with Ford for the past year, and I'm known how to do their recalls. I've done tires. I'm still doing the same stuff, but I'm doing recalls, and I'm progressing slowly in this field. But it's an absolute blessing. It's an absolute blessing for me to be in this position, because now I can tell you guys on how to do it. And it just never stops. You're always constantly learning. Never stop learning in this field. The worst thing you can do is idle in this position and keep on doing oil changes for the rest of your life. Do not stop. When you get home, learn about certain models of cars. What are the flaws about this car? It's like, I know in Toyota, it's very common for the screens to malfunction on the new Toyota Camrys. I know in the Ford F-150s or the Ford F-250s are common for oil leaks at the timing covers. All this information, make sure you're writing this down and keeping it embedded in your head, and it's going to work wonders. And it's going to keep you separated from the rest of the people, because most people, I'm going to tell you what most people do, and this is the secret. They come into work, they do their job, they're not looking for any raises or progressing in their field, and they're just waiting to clock out on Friday and do the same thing again. If you're the person that's constantly asking questions and learning about cars when you clock into work, and you're doing your job in a timely manner, and you're being respectful, and you're being honest with your work and you're working with integrity, you're already separated from like 80% of mechanics or 70% of the mechanics. There's a shortage of mechanics, and we need mechanics. Good mechanics, not just any mechanics. Because when I got the advice of a monkey can turn a wrench, a monkey can install a part, I was like, okay, so that obviously makes sense, because anybody can just grab a tool and just twist it and then put in and just do that. But not a lot of people have the integrity to work on cars. Not a lot of people have the honesty, especially when it comes to not ripping a customer off to do the job. So become that person, be better, and work with integrity. I love you guys. How much have you been in the field? Tell me, how long have you been in this mechanic field? Are you just starting out? Are you working at a parts counter position? Or maybe are you planning on taking a different route, not being a mechanic, maybe being a manager for a corporation or something like that? Who knows? But for me, my goal dream is to be a mechanic for either Porsche or be a master tech for Porsche or Honda. That's my goal. Or Toyota too, because I just really, really love these cars. So what's your favorite car? Drop it below. I love you guys, and God loves you too. Peace out.